Hey, hello, what's going on? My name's Alfie, and I'm here to present to you this video essay, or doctor-mentary, if you will, on the 12th Doctor. So, let's get familiar. Doctor Who is a sci-fi show that dates back to 1963. It's about an alien who travels through time and space, all futures and past events, in his blue box. Often the Doctor has guests or companions as he travels through. Sometimes he travels alone though. While travelling, the Doctor works to save all or any lives he can, human or alien, and liberate oppressed peoples by combating foes. The Doctor is also kind of immortal. He has a way of sort of cheating death, and his face changes and sometimes his personality, which is what I'll be discussing today. Now that you get the general gist of it, let's dive into it. The 12th Doctor is the 12th incarnation of the Doctor, more or less. The 12th Doctor is played by the amazing Peter Capaldi. Capaldi had one of the hardest transitions in Doctor Who, as his successor was the really popular fan favourite Matt Smith. Now, Matt Smith's incarnation and David Tennant's incarnation, which was the incarnation beforehand, they were both very sort of upbeat, more down-to-earth, human sort of personalities for the Doctor, I guess. They were very lively, and Peter Capaldi's Doctor, he played that as, well, not exactly the exact same. He gave his own take on it, as actors would do to a character. And he came across as cross and rude, but also serious, and, well, I believe he was great. I loved him. I grew up with him. I grew up with most of the Doctors, but he stood out. At first I didn't like him, but as I grew up, I grew to like him even more. And I personally believe he's underrated. And that's why I conducted a couple of interviews with close friends and fans of Doctor Who, and tried to understand their thoughts and opinions on it. Let's cut to that, shall we? Do you watch Doctor Who?
I do, yes.
Do you watch Doctor Who?
No, yeah, I do.
Okay.
Religiously.
How long have you been watching Doctor Who?
Well, when I was younger, I was watching the Peter Capaldi as it was coming out, but then I got very scared of it as a kid, so I stopped watching Doctor Who, and then I got back into it with Jodie Whittaker.
I would say from about age 9, I've been on it.
And once they revealed David Tennant, I was like, might as well rewatch all the new Doctor Who from Christopher Eccleston. So I recently this year just rewatched all the classic new episodes.
Who's your favourite Doctor and why?
Oh, that is really difficult as well. Oh, that's between 3 controversial picks.
Go for it.
Well, the last one being controversial. My first is kind of tied between both David and Matt. They're sort of together for me. I've always loved both of them. I've always really vibed with both of their sort of personalities. I thought they were brilliant, and they both brought so much to the table, especially in the new anniversary episodes. David, bringing him back was a fantastic choice, and I really did love him. I thought he was brilliant. And Matt, Matt's Matt, and you can't whack this guy. He's brilliant.
It's quite a common answer, but I would have to say David Tennant, because I love him as an actor, and he's got the good energy as a Doctor, not too angry, but also not too silly, good mix.
Mm-hmm. But the third controversial pick is going to be Jodie, which is that's going to go against a lot of people. A lot of people really don't like her, and they say she's a bit quirky. Look at me, guys, and then she kind of goes against her own views, saying you're not killing these spiders, and then lets them suffocate, which is a lot worse of a death. Which, yes, I concur with some of those points. That is fair enough. But at the end of the day, Doctor Who's Doctor Who. I enjoyed watching her episodes. I thought they were quite good. I enjoyed them. And overall, I know everyone hated on her personality, but I personally liked it. I thought it was alright, so I didn't see as much of the hate as everyone else did. But yeah, those have got to be my favourites.
How familiar are you with the 12th Doctor? I mean, you mentioned a little bit before, but...
Yeah. Because he's the Doctor I've definitely watched the most of, because I watched his episodes when I was a kid, and I rewatched a load of his episodes, all of his episodes, when I was rewatching them. So I'm probably the most familiar with his stuff. I've very clear memories of watching it as a kid.
How familiar are you with the 12th Doctor?
Decently.
What do you think of the 12th Doctor?
I think he's a very good Doctor. I do think he's underrated, because I know a lot of people say that he's not that good, but I do quite like him. I do think he's just as funny as David and Matt.
I think he gets a lot more hate than he deserves. I really do like 12th Doctor. I think he is brilliant. He's fantastic, but he's... Actually, okay, I'm going to change my answer. He's tied with Jodie. I think they're both brilliant. I do love Peter. He's brilliant.
If you could describe the 12th Doctor in one word, what would it be and why?
I'd probably have to go for interesting.
Why is that?
Because I wouldn't call him a funny person, but it's just the qualities he has are quite funny, and even the most serious thing he says can be kind of funny to me, and I don't know why. It might be his accent, but it's just I find him funny, and I don't know why.
Old, for obvious reasons.
Okay.
He's old. And grumpy.
Would you agree that the 12th Doctor is the most underrated Doctor of New Who? If so, why? If not, why not?
I would probably say the most underrated Doctor would be the 13th, because it's just, I do feel bad for Jodie Whittaker being let down by the writing, and I do think she would have been a great Doctor, but yeah, I would say Peter is one of the most underrated, because of the way he was seen by the audience. I do think he should have been seen better, because I don't think there was anything wrong with him.
Absolutely. Honestly, his episodes did bring so much to the character. He was fantastic. He had a lot of sort of what I would consider retribution scenes where he was at a low point, and then he gave this big speech about being Doctor Who and forgiveness and shit like that, and it was honestly fucking fantastic. I can't lie. Really enjoyed his episodes. Really enjoyed the things he brought to the table, and his TARDIS was absolutely immaculate, honestly.
Do you think the 12th Doctor deserves all the hate he gets?
No, not in the slightest.
I don't, because, as I've said, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just not as positive as the other two were. That doesn't mean he's bad. It just means he is a more serious actor, and he's not as silly as the other ones.
In your opinion, why do you think he gets hate?
I think he gets hate because he isn't the same as Matt and David. Mm-hmm. He was quite a contrasting character from the Doctor that he previously starred with, which being Matt. Matt was a very out there, a very quirky, a very eats grass kind of guy, and Peter Capaldi was very opposite of that. He was very old, gruntled, grumpy, very sort of down-to-earthy kind of guy, and I think he gets a lot more hate than he deserves for that. He was more sci-fi, while Matt was more... You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. In your opinion, why do you think he gets the hate then?
It is probably because he is not as maybe charismatic as David or Matt, and treats the situation more serious without and not with a smile, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. He's we gotta do this now. It's just not as he doesn't make it. It's less of an adventure, more of a task.
After this interview, as now this is the final concluding question, has your opinion on the 12th Doctor changed in any way? If so, how come?
I would say it made me think about him more, and obviously it made me think, well, actually he's pretty good, I've got to put him up there, but I never really used to consider him.
Well, when I was younger, it was terrifying. And now that I'm older, I'm it's not that scary. It's not as scary as it was. I think I was just a bit of a scaredy cat when I was younger, so...
How come you never used to consider him?
I didn't watch much of him, I can't lie. I watched a good bit of him, I did, but I wouldn't say, I watched all of his season religiously, as I did with Matt, David, and obviously at the end Jodie, which Jodie was my first Doctor that I got into, because that was what was coming out when I started watching it, around about-ish.
When I was younger, I definitely thought he was a boring man. But now that I'm older, I can tell that he's this is just how he played the character, and you can't really blame him for how he saw the character in his own way.
Okay.
I can't remember if it started coming out when I started watching it, but I remember her being the first one that I did watch.
Okay.
And then I went back and I started on Christopher Eccleston, who's fantastic, as always. He's brilliant. Then I went to David, who's fucking class, one of the best Doctors.
Of course.
Matt, again, picked that up and ran with it. He did fantastically. And then Peter, he definitely was a big difference from the previous couple of Doctors, who I did welcome that difference, but I never really considered him for my top spot, I suppose. I never really watched him all the way through and never really got to know him as well as I did for the other Doctors, I suppose.
Okay. During the 12th Doctor's journey as a character, he is changed throughout. As in season 8 of Doctor Who, right at the beginning, he's very blunt, he's very rude, and throughout season 8, he sort of has that question, that sort of arc of, is he a good man? Is he a hero? And that gets all sorted as he figures out at the end of season 8, as a clip shall play.
A good man! And I'm not a bad man. I am not a hero. I'm definitely not a president. And no, I'm not an officer. You know what I am? I am an idiot.
He realizes he's not a good... Well, he's a good man, or at least he tries to be, and that's what really counts. Throughout season 9, he has this sort of effect on his companion Clara, where he sort of pushes her to her limit, makes her more like him, and it's very reckless. And yeah, by the end of season 9, he becomes very... What's the word? Reckless. And, you know, kills a lot of people just for his companion and whatnot. And then it gets to season 10, and, well, quite frankly, again, he doesn't really sort of have a clear arc here, but at the end of season 10, in the finale, his final season episode, as obviously there's a Christmas special that sends him off, in the season 10 finale, he again goes across what was discussed in the season 8 finale of him being a good man, and he gives a whole speech on it. I mean, there's a lot of good speeches throughout Peter Capaldi's era. Obviously, the main speech with the Zygon inversion, and the other one with, obviously, Death in Heaven, the season 8 finale, two-parter, etc. And obviously, yeah, at the end of season 10. He gives a lot of good speeches, and they're all great. Touching up on those interviews, you can really see how sort of the 12th Doctor, he's appreciated now. Obviously, because I'm not the only one who's caught on to this, and given the 12th Doctor this sort of light that he deserves to be given, to be honest. Because, again, he's not exactly... He's not the worst. He really isn't. I mean, all Doctors in their respective areas have their own, you know, pros and cons. But the 12th Doctor really just shines and just really stands out. I hope you guys can also appreciate the 12th Doctor in a new light. See you later.